Welcome to the Social-Emotional Project. On this video, we will be discussing the first of our 4 school improvement projects. My name is Belinda Gullias, and I will be guiding you through the Cedar Chapel program and data. This project was implemented as a Tier 1 intervention for all Cedar Chapel students to directly improve mastery of high-frequency social-emotional vocabulary, while also indirectly improving student communication and finally positively impacting student behavior and interactions. Some of the information included is also part of the Parent Curriculum Night video as well. Please feel free to contact us with any questions. During the initial collaboration sessions, staff discussed the clear connections of communication to student behavior and saw this school improvement project as another proactive strategy for supporting positive student behavior by giving students the tools they need to express their feelings. We found this quote that truly resonated with our mission. What we sometimes see as a failure to behave properly is actually a failure to communicate properly. With communication as the primary focus, staff then began the school improvement process by completing some internal research in the area of social-emotional development. We met Ms. Santiago at the 2004 Council for Exceptional Children Conference, where we were able to discuss her recent participation in the SELF project, Social-Emotional Learning Foundations. Through professional conversations with Ms. Santiago, the University of Florida assisted us by sharing the project criteria and lesson models. Following various collaborative sessions with teachers, the team narrowed in on 10 high-frequency emotional words that seemed to directly connect to communication and student behavior. The next step was for us to create our social-emotional vocabulary library in order to provide consistent language and pictures in all classrooms with all students. Each of the 10 high-frequency emotional words included 2 line drawings, 2 photographs, and language that comprises of a definition, synonyms, and emotional applications as seen on this slide. We have strongly encouraged parents and families to also use the Social-Emotional Vocabulary Library at home to reinforce student communication by providing students with the language to label emotions in real-world experiences. The team then prioritized the assessment by creating 3 areas, which included identification, application, and description. As the assessment developed, teachers also articulated a need to include photographs as well as line drawings. By adding this particular element, we were able to glean some very important implications for the classroom based on the data that was collected. Here is a sample item from Section A of the assessment. On the left, students identify pictures of emotional words from line drawings. On the right, students identify pictures of emotional words from photographs. Here is a sample item from Section B of the assessment, asking students to identify emotions by applying them to situations. On the left, students identify pictures of emotional situations from line drawings, and on the right, from photographs. This slide shows a sample from Section C of the assessment, asking students to describe emotional words. Teachers are given a rubric to determine student knowledge of each emotional word. Here you will see how the students have performed from October to March. On the bottom line are the results of the baseline taken in October. The middle line indicates the increase in student performance that occurred at the end of December, and the top line designates the final assessment administered at the end of March. The data also clearly connects to some significant implications for the classroom. If we take a look at A1 and B1, which are 2 line drawings, in comparison to A2 and B2, which are photographs. we can see that students are responding to photographs at a slightly higher performance rate. The classroom implication that is supported by the data indicates that building background knowledge with photographs may help students increase social-emotional communication. Although teachers were positive that the identification of emotions located on the left would have been the foundation skills for most students, they were, however, at midpoint the data supported that students were responding better to application photographs on the right. The implication for the classroom, based on the data, told us that students benefited from explanations that were based in real-world experiences rather than emotion symbols in isolation. Another area that was very interesting was B2, which is the highest area of student performance at 90%. When we look back at the data again, we can see that the growth points are a bit closer when comparing the yellow circles and the red circles. We are able to see that the students are performing very close in both areas of line drawings and photographs, and that the gap in the line drawings and photographs is beginning to narrow. Here is the growth that students are achieving since October. In March, we added the final data in light green. Although all areas have increased performance, we are most interested in the fact that students have increased in the areas associated with line drawings, A1 and B1. We see this increase as a way for students to generalize their knowledge from photographs to line drawings, and ultimately visual language that can also become a mode of communication through electronic dynamic devices or interactive picture card books. Area C, which is description, has seen the highest rate of improvement. This area is reserved for students with some or limited verbal language, as students are required to create their response rather than make choices from multiple pictures or drawings, and indicates that when applicable, students are clearly taking ownership of their learning in areas A and B. In section C, they are using the adjectives to describe each emotion. The next 3 slides provide additional data that indicates growth in other areas that are compiled quarterly. This data demonstrates how student improvement in social-emotional vocabulary may also support improvement in student success of following the school rules, being safe, being respectful, and being responsible, as we see an increase from 53% to 77%. We can conclude that students are able to articulate how they are feeling in order to advocate for their preferences rather than using negative actions. This data demonstrates quarterly improvement in student communication skills, which we believe are in direct correlation to student behavior. And finally, this data demonstrates quarterly improvement in English language arts, which is another area where social-emotional vocabulary is introduced and utilized across curriculums in order to generalize the concepts for students. We have shared a lot of information in this presentation. If you have questions or would like to discuss your child's progress, please feel free to contact Cedar Chapel. We will be happy to answer your questions. You can also find additional information videos on our YouTube channel.